Hey, yo, what is up, everybody? Coach Chad here, the CEO of the Next Level Coaching Academy and the creator of the Fit CEO podcast. And today we got a special episode. We are welcoming in our client and now our assistant business coach, Sarina, to do a coaching call. So, quick backstory on Sarina. She started off in our 10K Accelerator Program, grew her business up to $10,000 a month, joined our high-level master coach program, is continuing to scale her business, and now we just hired her as one of our assistant business coaches to help coach our beginner students on how to scale their business as well. So we're going to bring her in and we're going to treat this as a business coaching call. So without further ado, let's dive in.
Thanks so much for having me today, Chad. I really appreciate your time. I think probably the biggest question that I have for you is more geared toward newer coaches at first. What would you say that a newer coach should do to prepare themselves mentally to get themselves ready for what could potentially be coming a year from now, 3 years from now, and so on?
What do you think is coming a year from now? Or are you just saying hypothetically?
Hypothetically, because you never know what's going to happen, right? I would have never expected to be where I am 1 year, less than a year into my business. I'm well over 6 figures now. And I would have
You're
never
saying
expected.
positively. You're saying what can happen a year from now, 2 years from now in a good way, not in like a doom and gloom way.
No, in a good way.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I thought you were saying like how can they mentally prepare for like building fortitude in case a rough time happens.
Oh, no. I just meant how can they be prepared for what the possibility of what's coming?
Yeah, 100%. So I would say a couple of things. I mean, I'm actually going to speak to both sides, how to prepare for potential doom and gloom, and how to prepare for the positive side as well. So entrepreneurship is truly a roller coaster ride. Not to go like too much on a tangent, but I've seen the roller coaster ride happen within your days, weeks, months, but also on a grander scale in terms of years. So I've been doing this for 9 years now, going on 10 years, which is crazy to say that I started. Yeah, I started at 19. I'll be 29 next July. And the first 3 years were on the downslope of that roller coaster ride. It was hard as shit. Took me a while to get to that point where things started really climbing. But then once things started climbing, man, they climbed. I started really having like financial success in my business around 2018. So yeah, 3 years after my starting point of 2015. And from 2018 to 2022, things were pretty smooth sailing. I mean, don't get me wrong, things are hard. You got to bust your ass. You got to wake up early. You got to work late. But in terms of like real challenges, I didn't experience too many challenges entrepreneurially. Halfway through 2022, I would say I've started hitting some bumps and bruises. And in 2023, I've definitely hit some bumps and bruises as well. So yes, there's good times and there's bad times. To prepare for the bad times, though, and then I'll get to the good times to answer your real question. Physical fitness, extremely important. Challenging yourself outside of work. So I'll still try to do like physical challenges. I box 3 times a week. On top of that, I'll work out like 3 to 4 times a week. I'll push my body. I'll even spar individuals on the weekend. Like I'll bring people to my apartment and not in the actual apartment, but in the gym. We'll have some sparring matches. So I'll try to test myself physically, which also tests you mentally, as you already know. And that has definitely prepared me for entrepreneurship. In addition to that, I try to always be learning, right? So I try to read 10 pages a day. Right now, I'm reading this book by Ray Dalio, Principles. So that challenges me mentally and also keeps me in a student mindset where I'm constantly trying to learn and get better. And then from there, I'm always listening to other individuals that are where I want to be. I would say the person that I gravitate towards most is Andy Frisella. I listen to his podcast a ton. I don't know what it is. Maybe I just resonate with his message. But those are the things that I try to do to stay mentally sharp in case you do hit one of these downward spirals in entrepreneurship. Now, for the upward spirals, the biggest thing that I would say that I do to prepare myself is I try to visualize daily. So I spend 5 to 10 minutes every single day doing some sort of visualization practice. Nothing crazy. Typically what that looks like is I'll do 5 minutes of breath work to kind of get myself in a relaxed state. And then the second 5 minutes I'll lay down and I'll in a continuing to breathe, I'll actually think and visualize of certain things that I want to achieve in my life, or whatever it may be, milestones, and I'll visualize and put those into practice. I do notice that when I fall off that, life seems a lot harder, and I would say more challenges seem to pop up. But when I do have a good practice of visualization, I do notice that things seem smoother and easier, and it actually does truly feel like good things do come reflected back from my visualization. So I would say those are the two things. I mean, I'm trying to sharpen my body physically and prepare myself mentally for the tough times. But I'm also trying to visualize, where's my vision and where do I want to be as a result of the hard work.
You kind of
Long-winded.
answered, sorry, you kind of answered my second question there, because I was going to break it down even further and ask you, what are some of the things that you do every day? Like, obviously, when you think about the future, you don't really have a lot of control 3 months or years from now, unless you're doing it right now. So what are some of the things besides that you really like to break down every day, that you keep structure and you've created those habits with?
Yeah, I would say it's been some combination of these things over the past 9 years. There's times where I'm really good at them, and there's times where I'm not so good at them. But it's always been a combination of these things. Right now, what that combination looks like is I try to read 10 pages a day. Funny little side tangent on that. I used to not be a big reader, and I used to say, like, oh, I don't read. I only listen to audiobooks and I listen to podcasts. What bullshit that is. Reading, you get way more takeaways. It's just by and far way better than audiobooks and podcasts, in my opinion, for what you're trying to get out of it, which is learning little nuggets. So I'll try to read 10 pages a day. That's a big one for me. I'll try to work out every day, minus one day for a rest day. But even on that rest day, I'll go for like a long walk. And I do that mostly, like, I don't have any crazy aesthetic goals right now. I do that mostly just to stay sharp and stay energized. In addition to that, I try to eat as clean of a diet as I can. I still obviously enjoy myself time from time. The other ones are the 5 minutes of meditation, 5 minutes of visualization. And then the last one is writing down 3 things I'm grateful for, 3 goals that I'm trying to achieve, and then 3 wins at the end of every day. So I would say it's usually some combination of those things, but that's what I'm focused on doing right now.
I love that. And you're clearly very successful. And I've heard a lot of your different stories, but I think probably the one burning question I have for you is, looking now back on the last 9-10 years of this journey, is there a specific like turning point that you're like, this is where it really started to take stride for me? And what were you doing at that time?
Multiple turning points, I would say. In the beginning, I would say I'll kind of try to talk through each of the turning points. The first one was learning that I couldn't do it on my own. So when I started in 2015, young 19-year-old guy, full of testosterone, wants to prove to the world that he could do this, right? As a result of that, I thought that I was very rejective of help, and I was going to figure this out on my own, pound the chest. Well, after 3 years, I didn't have any results. And that's when I really started to go into mentorship. Unfortunately, the first mentor didn't quite work out. I was still in that mindset of, I'm still going to figure this out on my own. So I wasn't really open to receiving that mentor's help. But the second mentor after that, I was like, all right, whatever this person tells me to do, I'm just going to go all in. And that was really the first turning point there, because 4 months into that program, I was full time. And I'm very happy that I did listen to that individual, because that was right around the time that I graduated college. So my back was against the wall. It was either I was going to figure this out and this was going to become my profession, or I was going to go get a job, which was the last thing that I wanted to do. So thankfully I figured it out before I graduated. And when I graduated many years ago, this is the only profession that I've ever had, which is online coaching. So I would say that was the first big pivotal turning point. Trying to think of other turning points. I mean, the other big one was starting NLCA. I mean, that opened up a ton of doors. That happened in 2020. A promise that I made to myself and kept was, I always wanted to do business coaching, but I didn't feel comfortable becoming a business coach until I have done the stuff that I was going to teach people to do. So once I got my fitness business to a point where it was making multiple six figures a year, on top of that, I had a team underneath me and I delegated everything out, and I really didn't have to like have a physical role anymore. That's when I've decided to start NLCA. And I would say that was another, if we're looking at a graph, that was another like huge spike in growth, monetarily and also personally, in my years of doing this. So I'm sure there's many other turning points. I would say those are the two biggest ones in my career so far.
I love that. And I think also too, something that I think about when I look at you and I hear your stories, I think about all these things. And there's not one part of me that doesn't think Chad hasn't worked hard for this. But I think what gets understated is the support system you have. I don't think people really realize how important it is to have that supportive spouse or partner in your life to make
Yeah.
yourself successful. So I'd really love for you to talk about that.
Yeah, great question. Great question. Caitlin, my now wife, I mean, she's known me since I was 16, honestly. So we met each other at a very young age. We actually met each other at my first job, my first real job. I stocked groceries at a grocery store called Ancona's, and she worked the cash register. I worked my way up to bag boy just so I can flirt with her, and the rest is history from there. But yeah, I mean, she's been extremely supportive throughout this whole thing. I mean, when we first started, we started together, meaning she started her own online fitness coaching business at the same time that I started mine, and we support each other through that. She For one of the mentors, he had an in-person event, and I didn't have two dimes to rub together, but somehow I came up with the cash to pay for the plane ticket and to get some really shitty hotel. Actually, I didn't even get the hotel. I got a shitty Airbnb in Inglewood, which at the time, it's kind of gentrified now, but at the time it was not a nice place in LA. And we drove to the house in this car that we rented, and the house had like bars all over it. It just was like a really sketchy scene. And she was like, yeah, I don't feel comfortable. We're not staying here. And then she called her parents, and her parents bought us a hotel. But anyways, she when I didn't have two dimes to rub together, she flew out and went to that live event to support me on, once again, my dreams of figuring out how to grow this online fitness coaching venture. Now, at a very young age, we kind of went back and forth, dating on and off for other reasons, but throughout that whole time, we both supported each other's dreams. Then we moved down here to Austin, Texas, together, and we've been here for 5 years now. And same thing, we kind of grew our businesses in tandem, side by side. So I would say that was one of the biggest things, was we both had a common vision and we both had a common goal. And I think there was a level of understanding and respect on what we were building and how hard it was to build it and continue to build it. And I think that really helps with other individuals who may not be experiencing the same thing, is you have to find some sort of common ground. And it may not be, starting two businesses simultaneously, but there is something that your partner is trying to achieve that is equally as hard as the business that you are trying to grow. And if you can somehow get the thing that they are trying to grow and achieve on the same plane as the thing that you are trying to grow and achieve, and come from that point of understanding that, like, hey, this is both hard. We can either choose to make this harder on one another by jawing at each other about it, or we could choose to make this easier on one another by, talking through the challenges and giving each other suggestions and basically acting as each other's coaches. I think that's what makes it a lot easier.
Is it safe to say that at the end of the day, you need to have the drive, and so does the person that's supporting you?
Yeah, definitely the person matters for sure. There's probably the higher probability that if you're listening to this and you're going through that, you may not be with the right person. That's probably the highest probability. But if this person is equally a hustler and equally has goals and dreams and visions for themselves, it's just getting on a common ground of like, hey, we're both trying to achieve this thing. We can either be each other's teammates or we could be each other's enemies. And that's a hard conversation to have too. But I would say those are really the two things. It's either, are we actually teammates, or can we become teammates? Or is this person just not the type of person that I want to be with?
I think when you find that person that it really is going to work, it's unspoken.
Yeah.
And I've never even met Caitlin, but I get that feeling from the time that I've known you. And I think it's just so great.
Yeah, I mean, what we have is super special and super rare. It's very unlikely that she's the only girl that I've ever actually been in a relationship with. Now, not the only girl that I've ever done stuff with. At a younger age, I had my period of time, but she's the only girl that I've ever had a serious relationship with. And it's very rare to have the first person that you date be the last person that you marry. So what we have is definitely special.
I love that. And I love this format. It was really fun me getting to ask you questions.
Yeah, yeah, I enjoy it as well. I mean,
Hmm.
if you have any more, let's keep it ripping if you have time.
I could always ask you a million questions. When you look at yourself, do you see other, like I know you're a big fan of Andy Frisella and all of the people who've been successful in business. When you look at yourself, do you see pieces of the mentors that you've hired and the people that you follow and all that kind of thing being put together in your own like kind of puzzle?
Yes, I'm happy you asked this question. I think this could be really insightful for the listener. Is I've noticed that and I don't know if this is just a me thing or if this is just human nature for everybody, but I tend to take on the traits of the people that I listen to. So if I'm needing more Andy Frisella energy, I'm just going to pop them on, right? If I need more Grant Cardone energy, I'm going to pop them on. Gary V, whatever it may be. But I have noticed that the more that I listen to a particular type of person, I tend to then reflect their traits or take on their traits, which is a powerful thing to understand about yourself, right? Because if you need a certain type of something, then you just surround yourself with that person that can give you that energy.
With that in mind, you listen to their podcasts and I know you know some of them. Do you feel like you learn by listening to them, or do you learn better by reading and applying, or is it kind of a mix?
That's also a good question. Reading has been more tactful for me. Like when I read something, I could pick it up like more strategic. But when it comes to like inspiration and motivation, I need to like hear somebody's voice and like feel their energy. So if I'm looking for strategy or like logic, I want to find that in a book. If I'm looking for like motivation, inspiration, or just like a good mental reminder, I want to find that in a podcast.
Awesome. I also, you and I both know the importance of this, but I really want you to touch on the importance of continuing to hire a business coach, because we're always going to be at these places where we need more and more and more help. And like Wayne Gretzky says, you're always a student of the game. So I don't think a lot of people realize how important it is to continue to better yourself and educate yourself and everything on that plane.
Yeah, having a business coach is imperative. I've had a business coach every year that I've been in business, sometimes longer than others, depending on if I like the coach or not. But I mean, you're never not a student, right? In life and in business, there's always more that you can learn, especially if you're the type of person that wants to max out your fullest potential. The coolest thing about of that being your life pursuit, maxing out your fullest potential, is you're never going to reach the end, right? And the cool part about that is you always get to play the game. But if you truly want to, by the end of your life, see how far you could take it, you got to get around people that are beyond where you are, or else it's going to dramatically slow down the process.
What would you say is some of the best, it doesn't have to be the best, but let's say top 3 that you can think of, the bestest piece of business advice that you've received over the years?
Best piece of business advice that I've received over the years in general, or to solve a particular problem?
That's a great question. I guess just something that you would look back and say, this still resonates with me to this day.
Yeah, I like this one. This one's from Gary V, but I forget exactly how he frames it, but basically I think what he says is micro speed, macro patience, which means micro speed means in the day to day, in your week, in your month, you're moving very quickly and purposefully, not just moving quickly to move quickly, but you're moving quickly with purpose to get a project done, to move something forward, whatever it may be. But you're doing that knowing that in the macro over the decades, you need to exemplify patience. So I think a lot of businesses now lack the macro patience and only focus on the micro speed. How fast can you get your first 10K month? How fast can you get whatever milestone it is? But they forget about, what is this business going to look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, so on and so forth.
So it's safe to say that it's very important to build that foundation so that you have a strong foundation so your house doesn't get blown down.
Yeah, and to know your vision, right? What's your vision? And it's okay for your vision to change. NLCA's vision has changed a number of times, not too dramatically, but little tweaks here and there on like where the direction of the company is going long term. And I think that's okay to be fluid in your vision as well.
I love that. I
Yeah.
think I'm good from my standpoint. I think I asked you
Yeah.
everything I wanted to.
No, I have something really funny. We're still going to put this in the podcast. My intention for this podcast was to answer business questions for you, but I love how you came on here and interviewed me.
I am so, when you originally sent me that, I was like, oh, he wants me to interview him to get a different turn. I'm like, okay, I'm a broadcaster. That's what we did.
Yeah.
We interviewed. So I'm like, oh, okay. Like I was, oh my gosh.
No, this is great. I mean, it turned out great. I love the questions.
I had all these questions. I'm like, okay, I'm going to ask him about the big term, the short term, the ball.
I just think it's hilarious because I was like, wow, none of these are about growing your business, but that's okay.
Oh, I totally misread that. Oh,
No, you're good. You're good.
oh.
Do you have any business questions?
Uh,
You don't
well,
need to.
I
Just
kind of started on it, like what people can expect and whatever. And then I started thinking about Caitlin. I started thinking about all this other stuff. But I mean, I guess, going back to what we were talking about thinking about the long-term vision of your business, 1 year, 3 year, whatever, realistically, what can you tell a student or what could you tell someone like me? I'm a year into my business. What should I be doing right now to prepare myself for 3 years and then 5 years and whatever else?
yeah, 100%. What's your end goal? Or do you know roughly what you want your business to look like? And it doesn't have to be like this pie in the sky thing, but like how many staff members do you want? What kind of revenue do you want? What does that look like?
I mean, realistically, to be honest, I kind of want to see where it goes.
Mhm.
I'm not the kind of person that's scared to work. I want to see where it goes. Maybe I thrive better with only a few employees. Maybe I thrive better with 10 to 15. I'm
Yeah.
not really sure, but I am such a financially driven person that if you can say, okay, you can make $100,000 in a month, that's where my head is. That's what is something that's attainable for me. If something's not measurable, it's not as attainable for me. So
Yeah.
that's kind of more what I'm getting at.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, cool. So if you're trying to max out and scale, and the cool thing about that, right, achieving like unlocking these financial levels is, and Layla Hermosi says this, I really like it, is Layla says, I want to meet the Layla who can make $1 billion in a year, right? So like even if you have a goal of making 7 figures, you need to change yourself as a person in order to unlock that. So that's kind of the cool thing about achieving these financial targets. But anyways, to answer your question, I'm going to keep it simple. There's really just a couple of skills that you need. One, you need the skill of sales, which you already have. The next skill that you would need is how to build a sales team, right? So how do you take the information that you've learned about selling and then pass that along to other individuals and be able to have them produce similar results? They're never going to produce the same results as you, but if they can even produce half the results of you, that's a win. The next one is marketing beyond what you are doing currently, because I know currently, oh no, you are running ads now, right? Amazing. Cool. All right. So you need to continue to harness that skill and then scale that skill out, right? So harness that skill would mean get a great return on your ad spend for what you're spending right now, and then just continue to spend more and try to maintain that return on ad spend, which we could do a whole podcast on that. The last one, and probably the most important one, is leadership and management. So being really sure of yourself, of what the mission is and what your values are, right? And then being able to get other individuals to buy in on your company tenets, on your mission, and then holding individuals accountable. The last part with leadership and management is learning not to be too emotionally reactive, and still being stable in your decision making. So what I mean by that is there's really 3 keys that go into the decision. How is this a win for the business? How is this a win for the employee? And how is this a win for the client? And if you can make those win-win-win decisions, you're going to be in a really good spot. But in order for you to get to that place, it's marketing, sales, and leadership.
One thing I feel like I've noticed over the last year, and I want your opinion or your advice on this. I feel like the people themselves, like my leads, maybe because it's from going from organic to running ads, but I feel like the sales structure is changing. I feel like people right now, because I agree with you that we're in a recession, I just feel like it's a little different sales process maybe than it has been in the past. Do you agree, disagree?
When you go from warm to cold, which is, using your organic audience to then introducing a new audience, you're always going to experience worse leads. However, you are exposing yourself to a wider range of people. So therefore, you will also have more good leads. The best thing that you could do is not look at the percentages, but look at the actual numbers. So what I mean by that is we can all look at like, oh shit, my show percentage is dropping, or oh shit, my closing percentage is dropping. But if we look at the actual hard numbers, even if our closing percentage went from 70% to 50%, we may have had 10 calls show with the 70%, but now we might have 50 calls show with the 50%, right? So that's still a huge increase. In this case, that would be a 5x increase. Same thing is true with closing. You might have had a 70% closing rate when you did organic, but maybe you only closed 5 clients a month. Now that you're running ads, it may have dropped to 30%, but maybe now you're closing 15 clients a month, right? So you've 3x'd your output despite the percentage being down. So it's important to just look at those nuances and recognize like, hey, I'm actually doing better despite the percentages being down across the board.
Would it be safe to say that the second year of your business month by month is the polar opposite of the first year?
In terms of growth?
Just in terms of everything you're doing. It's like I felt like the first year it was like the first month I'm doing this, second month I'm doing this, and now I'm getting into, having to track more data, having to pay more attention to return on ad spend and stuff like that.
Yep. 100%. In the beginning, it's not simple. It's still hard to get everything off the ground, but the concepts are simple, right? Sell people, make posts, deliver a good service. All those things carry over into this second year that you're alluding to. You're just adding more complexity to it, which would be learning and understanding the numbers to make decisions.
Do you feel like every year there's always that something that you have to add on to grow your business?
Yep. Less overall things that you have to add, but the things that you have to add, the things that you do have to add, you have to go into a lot more depth with.
That makes perfect sense. And my wheels are turning. That's why I keep just drilling you with these little questions, because the more we're chatting, the more I'm like, well, this is more stuff to pay attention to. There's always something more to pay attention to.
Always stuff to pay attention to. I know you got a timeline. I'm sure Alex has some stuff for you guys planned. Do you have any other questions before we wrap up today?
I don't think so. I think that's pretty good. It always gives me a lot of good stuff to think about.
Yeah, we got a good laugh in. We got some great information in this podcast. I think we dominated it. Air high five.
Air five.
I'll be seeing you guys tomorrow. I think tomorrow at 5 o'clock we have some sort of a game show thing, right?
Is that tomorrow, or because I think it's hibachi tomorrow at the Airbnb?
I don't know. Maybe Alex is giving me wrong information. I gotta text this girl.
She's gonna say the itinerary's in the live coaches chat.
Yeah, I'm not in that.
I think Thursday when we're doing staff photos and that kind of stuff.
Thursday staff day, group workout in the morning, murder mystery in the afternoon, and then we have dinner at one of my favorite spots downtown at night.
Awesome. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, 100%. Real quick, where can people find you on Instagram or social?
My Instagram is at coach_Sarina, Sarina. And of course, I'm bombing around on Facebook, TikTok, same handle, just everywhere. Can't miss it.
Can't miss it. All right, y'all. I appreciate you guys listening. If you enjoyed this, screenshot it up, tag it on IG, give Sarina a tag, give me a tag, and we'll see you guys in the next one.